Good morning, gentlemen, ladies. And I really need to expect you to be a little bit more on fire. I'm really tired. I'm just coming in from Asia. I got up at 4 in the morning. So please don't be mad at me if I fall asleep. But I would be mad if you fall asleep. So it's a little bit unfair. So I was asked to moderate that session, and Eileen asked me to make a little bit of a very short presentation about what is important, what is e-commerce about. And I was thinking like, okay, e-commerce, I mean, well, it's an online shop. And then thought, okay, we can do a little bit more, a little bit of background, a little bit of history. So actually in 1979, there was the first online shopping system, which I found quite interesting. I didn't knew that because there was no internet. Yeah? It was like, what is it? In Germany, we called it BTX. I don't know, CompuServe times, stuff like that. But that actually was the first online shop. In 1990, then there was the internet. Yeah? That is what we are dealing with every single day. 1991, Java. Who is working with Java here? Okay. Out. Actually, a minority. That makes me really happy. 1994. That was actually the first recorded secure online purchase. And that was a CD, LP, I think, at this time from Sting, 10 Summoner's Tales, which I think is really cool. Did anyone knew that? No? Yeah, okay, cool. I didn't think you should, actually. 1994, PHP came up. So now the question, who is working with PHP here? Yeah, a little bit more. Okay, I don't dare to ask who is working with Ruby. One, yeah. I can live with that. That's okay, I can diss Ruby the whole day. That's awesome. 1995, Amazon.com started to sell. That's quite a while. I mean, we're talking about actually 2016 is 21 years, long time. And 1999, Jack Ma founded Alibaba, yeah, which is pretty big. Who doesn't know what Alibaba is? Very good. Then I stole a nice slide because I'm really lazy from Spryker about a little bit about the evolution of e-commerce platforms. Like the first generation, 1995 to 2002, was like ERP-centric. There was a ERP and we did a shop. Actually, I think, where is the Oxid logo, Eileen? Why do I have a slide without the awesome Oxid e-sales? Yeah. I didn't look at the slide. You just gave it to me. So that was the first generation. Then, like with the invention of Magento, Demandware, it was a little bit more shop-centric. And the question is going to be, what is the third generation? I like the customer-centric, but we are going to discuss this, actually exactly this, later today. Okay, small fun fact. The 11th of 2015, actually, Alibaba sold goods on one day worth 14 billion US dollars. And there were actually a stunning 85,900 transactions a second. Can you believe that? 85,000 transactions a second. I was thinking like, okay, when I did a shop, it's really good if we can do 20 transactions a second. So I don't know, what is the biggest shop in Germany? Most likely Zalando, doing transaction-wise. Anyone any idea how many transactions a second? Come on, guys. I don't know it. If you don't know, okay, then we don't know it. So, and what did they use as technology? Java, Spring, yeah, for sure. They invented their own cloud, Allion, which they use, and they actually, and this I find also quite interesting, Alibaba, only their cloud have over 1,000 engineers for that system. Because like I'm dealing a lot with e-commerce players or corporates, they want to do e-commerce, and they're like, what? I need 5 engineers for that? But that's so expensive. Can't we do e-commerce with like 2? Yeah? And I mean, if you really want to be successful, you need engineers. And for sure, they need to do something meaningful. So the question is, what is going to happen in 2016? What is going to be the future? And I'm really, really excited that today we have the founding CTO of Magento. We have a founding CTO of Hybris here, Chief Software Architect of Intershop, Chief Software Architect of Demandware, the software architect behind Alice and Bob, Rocket, and myself. And I'm just like looking good. So please welcome Yoav Kutner. Yoav, come to us. He's the founding CTO of Magento. And nowadays, please have a seat, and now here for his newest project, Oro, where he's not only trying to do e-commerce, but also CRM and do it again. And I heard Roy Rubin joined you guys in the board. So the whole team is together. Really excited about that. Fabian Wesner, come to me, please. Founding, the inventor of Alice and Bob and the mastermind behind Spryker. Ulrike Müller, with the most titles. Welcome. Chief Software Architect Intershop, Chief Software Architect Demandware, and nowadays CTO, yes, of NewStore. Yeah, awesome. And Moritz Kellerman, the most handsome guy. Come on here. Moritz is the founding CTO of Hybris. Last but not least, Ben Marks. Come on over. Ben, software technology evangelist, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds good? Magento. So he's the guy we can diss now about Magento. And myself. All right, so let's get some microphones. So I think this is a pretty impressive lineup. So I really would like to know, I mean, I can ask them some questions. I prepared some questions for sure. But I would like to know is, you see, I don't think we had ever such a setup as speakers. So is there anything you would like to ask? I know it's early, but come on, that's your chance. You want to ask why Magento 1 is still Zen Framework 1? Here we go. That's the way. You want to ask why somebody would need Spryker? Or why Oro? Yeah? There are many good questions. Come on, guys. Anyone? Yep.
Is there a software or solution for one kind of field or problem which is always the right choice?
Very good idea. I love that. I don't know you, but I love you already now. That's actually... So let me repeat the question. The question was, is there a software solution which is always the right choice? I love that. So, and actually, that is a good question. I think what we could do is we start a little bit that everybody of you, just like in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, describe a little bit why his or her software would be the right choice. How about that? Who want to start? Moritz, and you. Yeah, come on.
All right. Well, first of all, happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. Why Hybris, which is actually now SAP Hybris? Well, I think there's a ton of best practices and experiences in there. The problem with developers is, or the funny thing about developers is, you really have, when you look at the quality, you have really a power law distribution. You know, a great developer or architect is not just 20 or 30% better than an average, but 10, 20, 50 times better. And at the same time, you know, they don't grow developers on trees, which is good news for all of you here if you work in development. So it's really a scarce talent pool. So having best practices, having people who do it over and over again over 10, 15 years, I think brings together a ton of reusable best practice patterns. And not everybody has the ability to have a team of thousands of engineers in China that build it all and invent it all and have that luxury to do that. So I think that's a great case for standard software for Hybris. At the same time, if you want to venture out into cool new architectures like microservices, we actually launched www.yas.io, which is our own native cloud microservice platform, augmenting our product portfolio with cool new open technologies. So if you want to build some stuff in Scala or Ruby or PHP or whatever, you can do that, and you can still benefit from the rich omni-commerce functionality that we have there. Maybe one final thing. Commerce is not commerce anymore. I think it's now omni-commerce. The customer is now on so many touch points. It's not just me sitting in front of my laptop, which was maybe like 5-7 years ago the case. It's really, you have smartphones, you have watches, you have email campaigns, you have remarketing. People still go into the store, and so this complexity just keeps on growing and growing and growing. So I think it's very tough to. In this market now, you have to include marketing. Now you have to include systems that better help you understand your customer. Now you have to think about how you get that into the physical store and so on. So I think that's really a marathon actually that you need to run. And if you want to run a sprint, then it's always the rule to go alone. If you want to run a marathon, I think it's always good to have a partner to partner with.
Moritz, thank you. Just let me add one question because I'm really personally interested. One of the philosophies behind hybris were that you're not using microservices because you had more like a one big binary blob for many years, one single Java monster, yeah, and only recently you switched to your philosophy, I think, towards a more like a service-oriented architecture, microservices. What was the reasoning behind that for so many years to have that standalone philosophy, and what made you change your mind?
Well, I mean, first of all, we've always re-architected our software when the time is right. I mean, we've built, actually, the hybris software is what you call old, one is was rebuilt 3-4 times from the ground up in many cases. And there's an evolution, just the way you do web stuff today, not just commerce, has changed in the last 15 years dramatically. New things, new patterns, new best practices have come around. And so gradually we did that. The first thing was basically a service-oriented architecture, everything available as RESTful web services. And then the next logical step was to go microservices. And we're in the middle of this journey. I think it's not super clear to anybody yet how the end state will look like. There's a lot of innovation that's really exciting. But I think there's a few core drivers that sort of like become accepted as best practices. Everything's moving to the cloud. And cloud platforms like Amazon underneath make it so much easier to do that now. I think the second thing is really this driver towards agility. You want to be able to deploy, I don't know, 50 times a day if you like, and get to a test-driven experimentation culture. And then you want to have to deal with complexity, because these systems are not just small little servers, one shop that runs on 1 or 2 servers in your basement. These are now complex systems. What is it, 14 billion a day? They're really big systems these days now. So I think that brings with it complexity and how to deal with that. I think those are the 3 key drivers, that where microservices is really a promising approach to address them.
Thank you. Ulrike, now your system is not really like a shop. It's more, what is it, and why would everybody want to use it?
Yeah, I think I have to one step back or look a little bit broader. I think what we have to look into which age we are looking at, and I think we're looking for the next decades a tremendous transformation in the society. It's when you see today with like a service like Uber or other service what you have available, where some people use it just call it the mobile area, others call it the Internet of the Things. So I think what we are looking at is a humongous transformation. And so what we are at NewStore, we are looking at what will be e-commerce be in this world, in this new world which is upcoming. And so this is, first of all, everyone says about omnichannel. So it's not a commerce anymore which is bound to the website, which is also goes into the store and it has a unified experience. And examples for a unified experience is, for example, when I had a good service in the store, do I want to, for example, chat with a sales associate who gave me a great service in the store right from my app on my phone, that the system knows who served me, that I can directly interact, that I can bring the experience I had in the store, also the emotional experience I had in the store, up to my app also when I'm sitting at home. This is one example. Another example would be when I go to a luxury store, and at the end, as a gift from the luxury store, I get an Uber ride back home. And so the sales associate just presses on a button, the Uber driver shows up, and I can go home with my bags. So this is just examples, I think, where we have to look in, where e-commerce will evolve. And I think the future of the e-commerce is not defined by how fast maybe my website is on my browser. It is really how I can integrate all these different services to provide really a unique experience for the customers. So, at NewStore, at the end, we're tackling this problem. How can we give retailers a platform that they can bring this experience to their customers? Whereas one piece is also like a mobile app, an app for the sales associate. So that's how we are looking at the world.
And to geek out a little bit, I think we met the first time a year ago, something like that, and I asked you how you're going to solve everything, and Ulrike told me that she's using React Native for everything. And I was like, wow, because there wasn't even
everything.
Android version out there. And so if you're interested how it's going to be to use React Native for mobile, he's definitely the person to talk to. Fabian, how about you? Why do we need Spryker?
Yeah,
and why shouldn't, I think Spryker actually nobody needs it. We can just use hybris and all is good.
No, I don't think so.
Because, like Moritz said, actually, literally, if you're not a really good developer, hybris is perfect. So
yeah, I think Spryker is the opposite of a standardized shop system. So basically, it's when you look at statistics, you will see that still today, even if there are hundreds of shop systems available, like 30 to 50% of all merchants have their self-developed system in place. So why is that? Well, it's because if you have a standard business model, then of course the standard shop system will fit, obviously. Then you save money, you take whatever, Magento probably, or Commerce, whatever, you just take it and run, happy with it. But if you have something which is more advanced, then it's not standardized. And it shouldn't be standardized because that's your USP. You have a business model which is not just selling stuff, it's more than this. And then you do not need a shop system. What you need is a tool set that makes you faster in development. So you do not want to reinvent the wheels. Of course, you will take some standard features. Maybe you have discounts, checkout. But maybe the rest is completely different. Maybe you do not have products. Maybe you have something completely different. And you have ideas. And what you need is a tool that allows you to bring your ideas into a shop as fast as possible. And that's exactly Spryker. So Spryker is more like a tool set for advanced, ambitious projects. So for merchants who really want to invest into IT, who see IT as their main value driver. And why has Spryker that the possibilities? Well, because it comes from company building. So from Rocket Internet and Project A, there we launched a lot of startups all around the world, and we made them big very, very quickly and adopted the features very, very quickly. So every day, like 20 deployments. And from this, we created the framework approach. And now Spryker is a product of this approach. So for all merchants who want to really compete with IT, Spryker is the right tool.
I don't say anything. I mean, there would be so many things we could discuss, but actually, then we would sit here tomorrow, which I would love to. The whole day I could discuss with you guys about the different philosophies and why to use this tool and that tool. And that's also actually the interesting question. I mean, why would you why would somebody use Spryker, Magento, Oro, Hybris, yeah, or NewStore, this technology stack, and what are the pros and cons, and all these different kinds of software actually come with a lot of philosophy behind it, like how it should be used and why you should use it and so on. So it always depends on the use case. Now actually I'm interested in Mr. Oro. Actually I would like to know why, when I learned that you do CRM, I thought like that's awesome actually. I mean there are plenty of CRM software out there, but they all, I would say, to say it nicely, could be done a little bit better. But then I realized, okay, you do e-commerce again, so why that?
So first, why CRM? Or so I think, first of all, it's mostly a developer conference here, which is great. I haven't written a line of code in probably 5 years, so I'm probably the least technical person, right, on this panel. But let me say this from a different approach. I think before I get into CRM and Oro and commerce, I think our job is to actually solve problems. Developers, us as platform companies, is to solve problems. And we need to identify what the problem is and solve it for our users, our end users, our customers, in the most efficient way for them. That said, when it comes to new technologies and new ways to do it, it becomes like a fashion. And our customers don't really care about fashion. They don't care if microservices is the new thing on the block, if React.js is the new thing on the block. You know, they want their store to work in the most efficient way. I agree that we cannot build solutions that are architected for technologists. Most of our customers don't have IT. I agree with that statement. IT of 1,000 people to run their stores. They need an efficient way to run their stores. So I think with that in mind, why did we come up with Oro, or what are we trying to do different? Is actually solve different problems. And yeah, the term CRM is very loosely used for systems, but with Oro CRM, we actually tried to solve a problem that we learned with working with omni-channel or multi-channel merchants that needed the real tool to create and manage the relationships with their customers. And with Oro Commerce, we're actually approaching another problem that we, again, learned, and just from experience of what we ended up doing was over and over again creating B2B e-commerce websites on top of B2C specialized platforms, which not always was a good fit. So we're trying to address that problem from the grounds up, building technology that actually serves the needs of B2B e-commerce websites. With that said, I think we're going to get in more discussions which one is more proper and which one is not. But again, just let's keep in mind, we build stuff as developers, as technologists for the end user, and I think that's the most important person in the room. So,
cool. So B2B, that's your
yes,
focus.
Yes, B2B.
Okay. All right. Ben, Magento 2. Awesome.
Yes, it is. I want to point out that when he introduced himself to me, he said, it's okay if we make fun of Magento, right? So take everything he says with a grain of salt. I'd also like to take ownership of the original question asker because I can't quite see because of the light, but I reckon it's, yeah, Fabian. It's a great question. So kind of getting back to that, I would say, you know, it's not, well, I think, Yoav, you summed it up pretty well with, you know, we're here to solve problems. And no, there is maybe a shocker, but no, there's no perfect software solution. There are just solutions that tend to fit and maybe can fit broadly. And maybe if they fit broadly, they collect a lot of really good talent, a lot of really good you know, stakeholders in the different areas, the different domains of concern inside of e-commerce. I mean, that's one of the reasons I would say Magento is such a fantastic platform, because you're not just getting the platform, you're getting this entire ecosystem that Mr. Kutner and Mr. Rubin helped create. That is a big part of the strength, because it's rare. You know, it's rare that you have, you know, just this lone wolf shop owner anymore. Most of the time, they need to work, you know, in tandem or with several other people, several other organizations to get their business up, to keep their business running. So Magento enables that.
Thank you. So yeah, and actually this is also what I, so thank you, Ben, for that. That's unfortunately the truth. No, there is no silver bullet or golden bullet. It always depends on the environment? I mean, are there capable developers? How well educated is the management? What are the goals of the company? And depending on all these different variables we have, you got to choose. And then you either choose like more like a full stack solution, like a hybris, versus a Spryker, which is like more the framework. And in between, there like if it's B2B, might be Oro, yeah, Magento or whatever. Oxid is also awesome in B2B. Just saying, I'm not working there anymore, but they're awesome. That's the sad truth, actually, that it's actually unfortunately not a single system you could use. Yeah, and the default, what we engineers always like to do is, oh yeah, it's just a shopping cart. Let's do it again. I mean, what is e-commerce? It's nothing. Yeah. Just a shopping cart. I can do that in 2 months. And I was always like thinking, like, I mean, oh my God, how many developers does Magento have? Engineers, roughly?
I think it's roughly around 200.
Oh, 200. I think they're all lazy. They don't do anything because everybody can do a shopping cart in 2 weeks.
Have you met many Ukrainians?
I'm not commenting on that, actually. I think that would be, well, I have, my company is in Lithuania, so not so far away from Ukraine. So yes, I did, actually. And I also, right now, employed an awesome front-end developer in Vietnam from Ukraine. Well, anyway, so to get back seriously, it's a very interesting very interesting area in which we're working, because it's quite difficult. So the question is, so how should we choose? I mean, what would you suggest if somebody would start an e-commerce project? How would you tackle that? What would you tell them? What would it be? So,
well, I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure if anyone here has done much e-commerce development, and I'm sure probably most of us have, you know, I've never met the same store twice. So, you know, the first thing you have to do is understand their needs. And I mean, when I came from the agency world before I joined Magento, and you know, I tell this story regularly. I mean, there was this woman. She came to us with this really cool product, great product, and she had so many friends say, you know, Magento, you really, really need Magento. And she knew our company by reputation. And knew that we did Magento, and so she came to us and said, absolutely, I really, really, you know, I've got to have Magento. And we said, you have one product. It comes in 5 colors. You probably don't need Magento. And, you know, and we probably were being very good stewards of her for her needs. Now, and she also had it was very simple fulfillment and everything, so she didn't have a lot of back-end concerns. And that was the right way to get her going. But I mean, it really starts with understanding the scope of what the merchant needs at the time, and sort of making an educated guess about where the merchant and, you know, his or her business is going down the road. I would say that's the start.
Yeah, and I think if I can add, I mean, fully agree to that, what you're saying. You know, if you have the time to do it, maybe just I think look at it from 2 dimensions. One is get your hands dirty with it and try to do a little small POC. Maybe you can boil down the field to 2 or 3 solutions and then just try out how they feel, how it really is. I think that's the one thing. And then, you know, being on the technology side of the house, I think we always get enamored with things like architecture and how much fun is it and how modern is it and does it have the latest and greatest stuff in there. I think that's all good and fine and important. But at the same time, I think you also need to look at overall the long-term viability of the solution, because it's always a risky bet. You know, you're basically betting the next, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years or whatever of your company on this. And whether you build it yourself, whether you take a standard software, it's hard to get these systems out. You know, I work at SAP now. You know, I realize how hard it is. It's impossible, you know, to get an SAP backend system out. And yes, maybe these days if you could rewrite it, you would do it in a different technology. But it doesn't really matter. It's there. You know, it will never go away. And I think commerce is probably going to, you know, go the same route. So you need to look at things like how big is the community? You know, how viable is the company down the road? Is this still going to be looking like a great choice 5 years, 10 years down the road? Because these software markets tend to be benefiting of extreme scale effects. So I mean, if you know, and this can still be a new player, you know, with the right new idea, you know, catching great momentum, that can still happen. But you need to really look at it. And we kind of like when we look at technologies that we should bet part of our product on, we have to do the same thing. You know, is microservices the right thing? Are we going to build you know, a front-end template in this or that? Are we going to use, I don't know, React or this or that language for it? Same thing there, and it's a little bit of gut feeling paired with some good market research. And don't forget the people who actually have to deliver. I think in many cases that's way more important than, you know, do you have the right architecture. If you have people that can do it, and maybe they have some experience on it, they have done it before, maybe on a specific technology platform, that makes, you know, that gives you life insurance that's going to be a successful project.
So thank you. I completely agree with both of you. I think if I first of all want to say it's extremely funny for me to hear today that Magento is seen as a monolithic application and one size fits all. We designed Magento from our experience as a services company doing custom applications and not finding a flexible enough system. Now, that said, that's, we just calculated a second ago, it was about a 9-year-old platform, and it's again funny to hear that it's a rigid system now and we need more flexibility, but that's good. We've done a lot of bad things, and I think that you can do a lot of things differently today. That said, it's all about matching the right customer with the right solution, and let me just tell you something from my experience when I was still at Magento. Went to one of the biggest catalog merchants in Netherlands, actually sell all over the Europe. I think $140 billion company. And we came to them and we were pitching, one of the executives there had the Magento store for his own business and he was really in love with it. And we were brought in front of the technology board to pitch Magento to them. And we were saying, it's flexible this and flexible that. And we're looking around and then their CIO comes to me and says, you know, we just spent 5 million euros in 3 years on embedding SAP here. We don't like flexibility. We want you to tell us how to do things, right? And this is a real story. We were like, wow, really? So it is really and truly about matching the right solution to the right company and the right customer. I believe that if you're looking at the mid-market, and I love the mid-market because they're exciting, because they're innovative, they're successful and unique, versus if you look at the enterprises, yeah, the enterprise is like something that's, you know, they can sign their name on and retire peacefully and everything will be okay. If it gets messed up or effed up, it's not their problem. Everybody else uses it. But if you're looking at the mid-market where it's interesting, if you like innovation, stuff like that, and see what they want to be on the forefront of every technology, and not necessarily, again, it's not necessarily on the details in the technology, but they want to reinvent or do exciting things, that's where you look at something more flexible. So I think, again, really match the solution with the customer you're sitting in front.
So I also would like to say something here. So I think this discussion is not so much from the technology side, this is more from the merchant side. And I think there are two groups. So there are the merchants who have their exclusive inventory. They are manufacturers. They can sell our exclusive product or just cheaper. And for these kind of merchants, it doesn't make sense to run a Magento or hybris. It just doesn't make sense to invest into IT because they can go to Demandware. Or if they have a offline shop, they can go to NewStore. They can go to any SaaS provider and outsource the whole IT. So they do not need to compete here. And maybe to Shopify if they're small. And then I think there's the other group who really, really need to customize their stuff. So really have our IT teams in place. And I think these two groups, that's something I think you will see more and more merchants going either to the left side, which becomes better and better and better and cheaper, or to the right side, and there you need frameworks. And I think in the middle, the shop system thing is something which will probably fade out. I think there's a lot of money. That's why they will always decide to run, let's say, Magento. But I think if they would make a decision like, okay, does it make sense to run a standard system on our own servers to pay developers, to pay system administrators, or should we go with something which is just a service, so shop as a service, then I think that would be the better decision. But I don't think that every merchant can make this kind of objective decision here. So I think that's why there's still a market in the middle, but I think it will fade out.
Yeah, maybe I would like to second what Moritz said. It's that you need to have an understanding really what it means to run the e-commerce system and what is involved with it. From really having the technical expertise just to operate the system, when you want to have have an in-house system, what needs technical expertise to develop the system, to maintain the system, and yet you really should not look at the now to launch it. Really look around in several years down the road, and then it's a question of basically how much of that one do you want to have in-house? How much of this responsibility do you have? And that is, I think, is also the decision then typical between a software as a service solution and an on-premise solution. Because software as a service, clearly, there are others who operate the system, who maintain the system, and they are specialized. And that's what you have to think about. How much of these let's say responsibility do you want to own? Who want to give to the specialist? And also, it's not also the question of how much do you want to own. Also, what is your company like? Have you experience with running projects, large technical projects, or you don't have experience? What it would mean to suddenly to have the responsibility for the project. I think that is an important factor. Really get a very well understanding what it really means, what is involved in operating the platform. That you then can choose what is the right thing, how my company is structured, of what shop system I should use.
I just want to say one thing about this approach that you were talking about, the right and left. I think there's also one more part that we have to worry about. As companies, as platforms, we need to survive as well. And one thing we've learned talking to other competitors in the space is this one-size-fits-all SaaS solutions. You know, they don't have longevity for the company themselves or the platform themselves, because they get two types of customers: ones that are very, very small and either don't transact, they're just sitting there, or ones that have become really, really successful and outgrow the solution. On the other hand, the platforms that give the flexibility, those stores that are just starting off cannot justify the investment or a big chunk of money. I think, again, as companies, for us, we also need to evolve. Hosting is becoming a commodity. People don't want to worry about IT or running their stuff on servers. They don't care about that as much today. And more, I know the bigger ones are still late to adopt this, but more companies don't care if their servers are in-house, on the cloud, or whatever you want to call that. They just want the website to run 24/7 and have 99.109s or today, whatever they want, uptime. Us as platforms, we need to adopt to that need. And if we don't, if we just tell them, well, you can go SaaS or you can do it on yourself, that's the wrong approach. We need to go and invest more in platform as a service approach. I think that's our job today. That's the next step where we have to solve the issues and provide them deployment wherever they want, but with full flexibility, if we offer flexibility, right? If we one size fit all, I don't think any of us here are. That's a different model and that works for a different market. But to evolve, to move with what the customers need today, we need to start providing a platform as a service.
Wherein Yoav Kutner describes the new Magento cloud. Thank you.
Well, there's the Oracle cloud as well, right?
Yeah, cloud. So we're running out of time. I think 5 minutes left. Actually, we could use a question from you guys, but Fabian asked me, actually, I should ask him what he think. He wanted to say something about Magento 2, actually, right? Okay, come on.
Yeah.
What do you think about Magento 2?
I'm a big fan of Magento. No. To be honest, I talked with Yoav some month ago, and I asked him, why the fuck did you do things like EAV or having a Send Framework 1 clone, and so on and so on. Why is it so slow? Why didn't you full page cache and so on? And I was really, really surprised to see all these things in Magento 2. So I asked myself, why didn't they had so much money, so many developers, why didn't they just start from scratch, building something really, really good based on Symfony or Send Framework? Why did they take all these legacy things, which I understand that this happened because there was no time. It was a very big success very, very early, but which is totally understandable. If you start something and you get early success, okay, then you have to live with this. But why did they take all these things into Magento 2? I don't get it. So,
who was that? Well, so Yeah, I mean, part of it was, it's amazing how, just how much work it takes to build things. So we actually we looked at a number of things because there were a few common requests from the developer community, like get rid of EAV, change out ZF1 for ZF2, et cetera. We actually looked into changing out to ZF2, and if I remember the story correctly, we don't use much of it, right? Because we have our own MVC idiom, but we don't. Basically, swapping out what we were using for ZF1 for ZF2 did not really give us any substantial advantage, other than just sort of saying, hey, we're using ZF2 now, which would basically be moot, I think, later this year when ZF3 comes out. That's the kind of arms race we don't have time for. So we focused on building, sort of reimagining and improving how developers can work with the different components in Magento and making it much more modular, and sort of laying the ground for what would actually become this pass that we've just announced, and allowing people to still be able to customize.
So just hold on a second. So you're basically saying you didn't use Zen Framework 2 because anyway, someday will be Zen Framework 3 and 4.
That's not the full answer. But no, the little tiny bits that we were using, yeah, just it wasn't worth the effort at the time. Now, but we do accept pull requests, so if any brave souls out there want to dig in to the ORM and fix it for us.
So I think, first of all, Magento 2 is probably Magento 3, the way we imagined it. So I actually announced Magento 2, I don't remember, somebody just tweeted about it.
Brazil 2010, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. So 6 years ago. The idea was to get over the hump of breaking backwards compatibility. So I'm not trying to protect Magento anymore, I'm just explaining. So what happened was we knew about a few things that needed to be fixed, but would break heavily the backwards compatibility. So that was Magento 2, that was the goal of that. It was not a complete rewrite. I think what Magento 2 is right now, and by the way, just to buy enough time to start working on Magento 3, where we'd select a new framework, new approach, et cetera, et cetera. I think Magento 2 is a complete rewrite of the Magento application, but yet staying very close to some of the fundamental ideas. That said, I don't think they use Zen Framework 1 or Zen Framework 2 or Symfony for that. I think they wrote their own framework, yet another framework. So that's something that needs to be addressed and understood why. But because that's the truth, so there's no question why they're using Zen Framework 1. I think they're using some components, that's fine. If it does the work, who cares? To me, it is a little bit kind of a letdown because I do think that there's a lot of things that needed to be redone. I can protect EAV and explain it if you want, if it's interesting to anybody. EAV was a very quick way for us to solve the idea of being able to deploy in any environment, even if you cannot change the schema of the database, yet to give you a flexible schema, right? So that was the idea of EAV. If anybody knows any other way of doing it, we always want to learn. So there's a few other approaches, but none of them are as flexible and as fast to develop as EAV. Of course, that comes with a different price. That said, again, with what we know about Magento today, and I can say from our new platform, we don't use the EAV. So again, I think what we did learn is that this level of flexibility is not as needed in the type of companies that are using Magento today or any of our clients here. So EAV, again, I think a really good idea. I think with PHP 7 and the improvements that done to object-oriented PHP, it is a valuable solution today. I will definitely look at it if it solves the right problem.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I think we run out of time. I hope you guys don't run away and hang around a little bit. So you have the chance to ask a more in detail question. I would have loved to discuss a bit more nerdy things, but actually that's not possible in that short time. But thank you for being here and thank you for your explanation. I think we managed to confuse everybody, which is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.